Don't take another step, or you'll die tonight. Jide froze in the doorway, his polished shoes squeaking against the marble floor. He was halfway to his car, one hand fixing his cufflinks, the other clutching his key fob. But blocking his path was Zara, the housemaid everyone ignored. She was on her knees on the cold tile, palms pressed together like a child at confession, eyes swollen red with fear. "Sir, I'm begging you," she whispered. Dante tilted his head, confusion dancing in his gaze. "Zara, what is this drama?" She gulped hard, voice cracking. "Please don't leave tonight. I saw it. I saw you. The same clothes, the same watch. You stepped out, got into your car, and you didn't come back. There was blood everywhere. They were screaming your name." Dante's chest tightened against his will. If this story moved you, please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments what would you do if the people you loved most were the ones planning your ruin. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's continue. He felt the cold air of the corridor grow heavier, pressing in on him. "A dream. You're stopping me for a dream." Zara nodded frantically, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I couldn't stay quiet. I know I'm just a maid, but if I let you go and something happens, I'll never forgive myself." The sharp click of heels on the staircase cut the tension. Victoria appeared, perfectly made up even at dawn, arms folded tight around her silk robe. "What's going on down here?" Jide didn't look at her. "She says I shouldn't leave." Disgusted. "Zara, get off the floor. He has an important meeting. Money, contracts. Do you even know how ridiculous you sound?" Zara didn't move. "Ma, please, I had to say it." "Out of the way," Victoria snapped. Jide held up his hand. "Wait," Victoria turned on him. "Wait, for what?" He didn't answer. He stared at Zara. There was something in her eyes, not fear of punishment, not the need to impress, just raw, honest terror. And something shifted in his chest, that deep, quiet voice everyone ignores until it's too late. "If you step out today, you'll regret it." He exhaled, the sound shaky. Slowly, deliberately, he placed the car keys on the console. "I'm not going." Victoria's mouth dropped open. "You're what?" Jide turned away from the door. "I said I'm not going." He sank onto the couch, eyes fixed on the floor as if waiting for answers to rise from the cracks. Victoria shook her head in disgust, spun around and stormed upstairs. Zara wiped her eyes. She picked up the cup she'd left on the side table with trembling fingers. Jide sat unmoving, heart pounding, wondering why a poor maid's fear felt more real than anything he'd known in years. What he didn't know was that today was only the beginning. Jide sat in the living room, long after Victoria's angry footsteps faded upstairs. He didn't move. He didn't call his driver. He didn't open his laptop. The house was painfully quiet, except for the low hum of the AC. He should have been shaking hands right now, signing the deal that would expand his empire across the country. Instead, he was replaying the image of Zara on her knees, begging. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. He let it ring once, twice. He picked it up. "Jide!" Emeka's voice barked from the other end, all smooth confidence and irritation. "Where the hell are you? Investors are furious." Jide cleared his throat. I had to cancel. Cancel? Are you mad? Do you know what was on the table? Billions, Jide. Literal billions. I know. Emeka went silent, then hissed. "Don't play games with me. What happened?" Jide hesitated. He didn't even know how to explain it. He swallowed hard. But before he could answer, another call cut through. The screen lit up. Office line. A sick feeling twisted in his gut. He switched over. "Hello?" A female voice shook on the line. Sir, it's Jumoke from the office. Joseph, your driver, he's been in an accident." Jide sat forward so fast the couch creaked. "What accident?" "Truck lost control on Carter Bridge. Hit your car. The same car you use every day. It flipped. He's in the hospital, unconscious." "Sir, we thought you were in it." Jide dropped the phone. He pressed his palms to his face. He stayed like that, motionless. Zara's voice echoed in his skull. "If you step out today, you won't come back alive." His chest ached. He imagined twisted metal, blood on the pavement, his name being screamed. What if he hadn't listened? What if he'd gone anyway? The silence of the house felt like a judgment. When he finally lowered his hands, his eyes were red. He sat back slowly, staring at nothing. And upstairs, Victoria was watching the entire time, her expression unreadable. The next morning, the house was thick with tension. GD hadn't slept. He'd sat in the living room until dawn. Lights off, the city beyond the window silent. Zara came in early, moving with quiet grace. She didn't say anything at first. She cleaned around him carefully, respectful of his silence. But before she left the room, she paused. "Sir," Jide blinked at her. She bent to pick up a napkin that hadn't fallen. "Please don't sign any papers this week." He frowned. "What?" Zara's voice got even lower. "I had another dream. This one was worse. I saw papers, you signed them, and not long after, you lost everything, the company. Your accounts. Police came." "Sir, you were in handcuffs." Jide went stiff in his chair. He wanted to argue, to laugh, to tell her to get out, but he couldn't. Something in her eyes made it impossible. Before he could speak, Victoria walked in. She was dressed in sleek sportswear, pretending to be casual. "What's this? More of her nonsense?" Zara stood straight. "Good morning, Ma. Don't ma me." "Jide, are you really letting this girl talk to you like this? Giving you warnings like she's your pastor?" Jide didn't reply. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "You're not actually listening to her, are you?" Jide still said nothing. Victoria let out a disgusted sound and stormed out. Zara lowered her head, picked up the tray and left silently. But her words didn't leave. They stayed, like a brand on his mind. Later that day, Emeka showed up. Big smile. Loud voice. "My guy!" He pulled Jiddy in for a hug. "Good thing you didn't get in that car. Nasty mess." Jiddy forced a smile. Emeka's eyes gleamed. "Let's talk business. That Dubai deal is alive. Just need your signature." Jiddy hesitated. Images of Zara on her knees crying. He nodded slowly. "Send it." But that night, when he opened the documents, his blood ran cold. Jiddy sat at his desk, the documents spread before him. Numbers danced on the page, but something felt wrong. The land value was lower than agreed. The foreign account number, it wasn't familiar. His heart pounded. Zara's warning replayed in his head. "Don't sign anything this week." He closed the file slowly, fingers trembling. He locked it in his drawer and leaned back. He felt sick. He picked up his phone. A quiet call to a banker friend. He kept his voice calm, casual. But his questions were anything but casual. A week later, the truth came back uglier than he imagined. Emeka had been siphoning money for years. Fake projects, hidden offshore accounts. Betrayal wasn't even the word. It was theft, fraud, treason. Jide couldn't breathe for a moment. His best friend, the man who toasted with him at his wedding, who called his mother Mama. He felt the walls close in. He remembered Zara's trembling voice. "If you sign anything, you'll lose your company. End up in jail for something you didn't do." He pressed his palms to his eyes. Victoria noticed the change in the house. She felt it in every silent meal, in every dismissive glance Jide threw her way, and she hated it. One morning she slammed a drawer. "That girl is too comfortable here." Jide didn't even look up. "She's good at her job. She's disrespectful. She's disciplined. She's going." Jide finally lifted his head. "She's staying." Victoria's mouth fell open. "You're choosing a maid over your wife?" Jide's voice dropped to a cold whisper. "I'm choosing my peace." That night, Victoria locked herself in the guest room. She paced. She texted. She made one call she'd promised herself she wouldn't. "Emeka." His voice was tired. "What is it?" Her voice broke. "I'm suffocating. He won't fire her. She's ruining everything." Emeka went quiet. Victoria sniffed. "You told me to marry him. You said we'd get in, take our share. It's falling apart." Emeka's voice was a low growl. "Then make something happen." And Victoria wiped her tears and whispered, "I will." Days crawled through the house like restless ghosts. Jide barely spoke. He watched everything in silence. Victoria's smiles were brittle, cracking if you looked too long. Zara moved like air, unseen, unheard. But the quiet was thick with things unsaid. That evening, Victoria appeared at the top of the stairs in a fitted travel dress. Her scarf was tied loose around her braids, nails freshly painted a violent red. "I'll be going tomorrow morning," she announced, checking her phone without looking at him. Jai didn't lift his eyes from the tablet. "Where to?" "My father, he's unwell." Jide nodded once. "All right. Victoria stood there, waiting for questions, a sigh, a goodbye, something. But Jide just scrolled silently, her fingers tightened around her phone. She turned sharply and walked away, heels clicking like gunshots. Later that night, Jide sat alone in his office. He pressed call on a saved number. "Follow her. Don't interfere, just send me everything." The next morning, she left at 7:15, her designer handbag slung over her shoulder. She kissed his cheek. "See you Monday." Jide didn't move. By 9:03 a.m. the first message buzzed. Checked into a boutique hotel on Broad Street. He read it without blinking. By 9:47 a.m. second party arrived, male, cap pulled low, sunglasses, same room. Jide stared at the photo, his face stayed blank. Inside, something old and heavy just settled deeper in his chest. By 6:20 p.m, Jide walked into the hotel lobby. He didn't speak to anyone. The receptionist looked up. He placed 2 thick bundles of cash on the counter. "Room 406, she swallowed, handed him the key. He climbed the stairs slowly, deliberately, no rush. He opened the door without knocking. Victoria was in a white robe, glass of wine trembling in her hand. Emeka sat shirtless on the couch, phone forgotten in his grip. They both froze, shocked, trembling. "It can explain," Victoria stammered. "Don't lie." Emeka tried to smile. "Guy, listen." Jide raised one hand. "Don't." He swept his gaze over them one last time. "I hope it was worth it." Then he turned. He closed the door quietly behind him and walked away without looking back. But the fury burning in his chest would not be so easily shut out. Jide didn't sleep that night. He sat in the car for hours after leaving the hotel, staring out at Lagos traffic crawling by, lights blurring through the windshield like the chaos in his mind. Inside his chest was a stone he couldn't swallow, couldn't spit out. He thought about Victoria's eyes when she realized he knew. He thought about Emeka's false grin dying on his face. Betrayal was supposed to come with warning signs, he told himself, but somehow he'd missed them all. Zara opened the door when he finally came home near dawn. She didn't speak, just stepped aside, letting him in quietly, as if she understood this was not a moment for words. Jide dropped his keys on the table, fingers shaking for the first time in years. "Thank you," he managed, voice hoarse. Zara only nodded, eyes lowered in respect but not fear. "Sir, are you all right?" He gave a hollow laugh that sounded like it belonged to someone else. "I don't know what I am anymore." She watched him carefully. "You're still alive. That means you have time to figure it out." Jide swallowed hard. For a moment he wanted to tell her everything. The lies, the hotel room, Emeka's betrayal, Victoria's cold eyes. But he couldn't. Instead he just nodded slowly and walked past her into the dark living room. Upstairs he heard movement, drawers slamming, angry steps. Victoria was packing. He didn't go up. He didn't say anything at all. The next morning she came down dressed sharply, suitcase in hand, eyes glittering with rage and tears that wouldn't fall. Angry. "So this is it? You're just going to stand there and let me leave? You made that choice, because of that Maid? She turned you against me with her little prophecies? No, you did that all on your own." Victoria laughed, sharp and brittle. "You think you're so righteous? You built this house on money from deals you never questioned. You trusted Emeka because he smiled. You let me in because I was beautiful. Don't you dare act like you're innocent." Jai didn't flinch. "I'm not innocent. I'm just done lying to myself." She glared at him one last time. Without another word, she wheeled her suitcase out, slamming the door so hard the paintings rattled. And Jide was left in the silence, watching dust settle on a life that had just ended. The days that followed felt like a funeral without a coffin. The house was quiet, unnaturally so, the emptiness pressing against the walls like grief made physical. Jide wandered from room to room, seeing memories in every carefully chosen chair, every painting she insisted on buying, but none of it mattered now. He didn't talk much, he didn't eat much either. Zara kept cooking though, plating food and setting it carefully on the table, even when he ignored it. One evening he found her wiping down the kitchen counters with slow, deliberate strokes. "Why are you still here?" he asked suddenly, voice low and rough. Zara didn't look up. "Because you're still here." "That's not an answer." She paused, then turned to face him. "You're not the first man to think he had everything only to realize he had nothing, but you listened when no one else would. That means there's still something worth saving here." Jide let out a harsh breath, chest aching. "Nothing's worth saving." Zara didn't move, didn't flinch. Then why are you still fighting? Jide swallowed hard. He turned away, fingers pressed to his eyes. I'm not fighting. I'm surviving. Sometimes, Zara said quietly, that's the first step. Jide dropped his hand. He looked at her properly. Really looked. The girl everyone ignored. The one who warned him when no one else would. The one who asked for nothing but stayed anyway. Why did you warn me? Zara's eyes darkened. Because I've seen men like you destroyed. Men who didn't listen. Men who thought loyalty and love meant the same thing. Jide felt something break inside him. Not the anger, the hurt, the deep, pulsing wound he'd been ignoring for years. He didn't say anything else. He just turned and walked away. But this time he didn't slam the door. And upstairs in his study, he sat alone until dawn, finally ready to call his lawyer. Jide signed the divorce papers with a pen that felt heavier than iron. Each stroke across the page felt like the slow cutting of a cord that had once held his entire life together. Victoria hadn't even bothered to show up. She sent her lawyer instead. The man didn't look him in the eyes as he slid the documents across the table. She's agreed to everything, he mumbled. Jide nodded stiffly. Tell her I hope she finds her peace. The lawyer hesitated, then gathered his things and left without another word. Jide sat alone in the conference room for a long time after, staring at the ring he'd taken off weeks ago, now rolling it between his fingers like a worry bead. When he finally stood, he felt 20 years older. He walked out to the lobby where Zara waited quietly. She didn't ask questions, she didn't offer pity, just met his eyes and nodded once, as if to say, good, it's done. They rode home in silence. The mansion felt cavernous, filled with too much space for one man's thoughts. Jide dropped his briefcase in the entryway. He stood there, listening to the ticking of the ornate clock that Victoria had insisted on importing from Italy. He wanted to smash it, but he didn't. He just exhaled and walked into the living room. Zara followed, stopping at the edge of the room like she always did. Sir? He turned, face drawn and exhausted. You don't have to keep calling me that. Zara looked confused for the first time. What should I call you? Jide sighed. Call me Jide. She nodded, gaze steady. Jide, would you like something to eat? He laughed. It was a dry, broken sound, but it was real. Yeah, he said finally. Yeah, I think I would. Zara moved past him, heading for the kitchen, her small frame casting a long shadow in the warm light. Jide watched her go, something in his chest loosening just a little. Because for the first time in years, he felt like he might actually be able to breathe. The house felt different in the weeks after the divorce. Jide moved through it like a man waking from a long, fevered dream. The silence was no longer suffocating but unsettling, full of questions he was finally brave enough to ask himself. He spent his mornings in the study, sifting through ledgers and contracts with a cold, precise eye, determined to uncover every lie Emeka had buried. At night he wandered the halls, unable to sleep, trailing fingers over expensive art and imported marble that felt like trophies from a life he no longer respected. Zara continued working as if nothing had changed, but she watched him closely, quietly adjusting her routine to be exactly what he needed, even when he didn't know it. One evening, he found her in the dining room, polishing silver that hadn't been used in years. Why are you still here, Zara? You know you don't have to stay. Because you're not finished yet. Finished with what? Figuring out who you're going to be after all this. And what if there's nothing left to figure out? What if it's all just ashes? Then ashes can still be planted, Jide. They can still grow something new. Jide sat down heavily in one of the carved chairs, running a hand over his face. I trusted them, both of them. More than I trusted myself. Trust isn't the problem, it's who you give it to. Jide let out a broken sound that was somewhere between a sigh and a laugh. He watched her as she placed the polished silver back in the cabinet. She didn't move with fear or obligation, but with quiet purpose. Zara, why did you really come here? You could have worked anywhere, for anyone. I came because you needed someone to see what you were pretending not to see. Jide felt his throat tighten painfully. What did I not see? Your own heart, your own worth. He lowered his head, unable to look at her. Because in that moment he realized she wasn't just a maid, she was his mirror. The office was just as tainted as the house. Jide knew he couldn't avoid it forever. He walked in one morning to the wary glances of staff who had heard rumors but didn't dare ask questions. The conference room felt like a crime scene, filled with echoes of Emeka's easy laughter and the warm handshakes that had hidden the blade. He sat at the head of the table, files stacked around him like walls. "Call in the CFO. I want every offshore transaction reviewed, today." The secretary hesitated. "Sir, some of those approvals, they have your signature. Then let's find out if it was really mine." The room fell silent except for the scratching of pens and the shuffle of paper. Jide felt anger simmer under his skin, hot but controlled. He refused to let it consume him. When the CFO finally sat across from him, sweating slightly under the cold AC, Jide leaned forward. "Tell me how long you knew." "Sir, I didn't know the extent, but you knew something." "Yes, sir." Jide didn't yell. He didn't slam his fist on the table. He just sat back slowly. "You're fired. Clean out your office by noon." The man looked like he might cry, but he didn't argue. As the day wore on, Jide tore through account ledgers, emails, receipts, ripping up the beautiful lie his company had become. He felt like a surgeon cutting away rot to save what was left. That evening, he returned home exhausted, his tie hanging loose around his neck. Zara met him at the door, eyes steady. "Long day. Longest of my life." "Did you find the truth? Pieces of it?" "That's enough for now." Jide managed a tired smile, feeling something uncoil in his chest. He realized for the first time he was no longer afraid of the truth, because lies had nearly killed him and he would never let them again. The night he learned everything, Jide didn't sleep at all. He sat on the balcony in the dark, warm breeze brushing over him like a reluctant comfort. In front of him was the final report, proof of every fraudulent transfer Emeka had made. Fake projects, shell companies, even bribes Jide hadn't known he'd approved. He felt sick, disgusted, but he also felt clear. He picked up his phone and called his lawyer at 2 a.m. "I want you to prepare to buy out his shares immediately. I don't care how ugly it gets." Nervous. "Understood, sir." Jide ended the call and let the phone rest in his lap. His fingers drummed against the metal armrest as he stared at the city lights blinking like false promises. Zara's voice interrupted his thoughts gently. "Can I sit with you?" He didn't answer at first, just nodded, too tired to speak. She settled quietly beside him. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. "I always thought loyalty was enough," he finally murmured. "Loyalty isn't blind, Jid. It sees the truth and stays anyway. That's what you gave to the wrong people. I hate that I didn't see it. You see it now. That's enough." He turned to her slowly. "Zara, what happens next? You choose, you rebuild, or you let them win by staying broken." Jid let out a slow breath. He looked at her face in the dim light. She was so calm, so certain. It made him ache. "Thank you for everything." "You don't have to thank me. I didn't come here to be thanked. I came here to help." Jid nodded, emotion tightening his throat. He felt the weight of the city pressing in on him, but for once it didn't crush him, because he was finally ready to fight back. Morning came like a verdict. Jid woke before dawn, the documents spread across his desk from the night before. His head pounded, but his mind felt sharp, cold as steel. He knew what he had to do. He dressed without ceremony. A simple shirt, rolled up sleeves, no tie. He didn't want to look like the man Emeka had betrayed. He wanted to look like the man who would bury him. When he entered the office, his staff froze. They watched him approach like he was a storm rolling in off the Atlantic. "Call an emergency board meeting. Now." "Yes, sir." Within an hour, the boardroom was full. Faces pale, murmurs hushed. Jide stood at the head, eyes sweeping over them like a judge at sentencing. "I know what's been happening here, and I know who helped him." Chairs shifted. One man cleared his throat to protest, but Jide cut him off with a glare. Don't insult me. I have the evidence." He tossed the folders onto the table, pages spilled like blood across the polished wood. "Look at it. All of you." The rot in this company was not just Emeka. It was all of us looking away. "That ends now." He slammed his palm on the table once, the sound cracking like a gunshot. "You will cooperate with the audit team, you will help me clean this company, or you will be gone, today." Silence. Finally, one older director cleared his throat. "Jide, we didn't know it was this bad. You didn't want to know." The man lowered his gaze. Jide let the silence stretch until it was suffocating. Then he leaned back, eyes cold. This is your one chance. Don't test me." He walked out without waiting for their answer. By the time he got home that night, he felt like he'd aged another decade. But when Zara handed him a cup of tea at the door, her eyes held something he hadn't seen in anyone for months. Respect. Jide took the cup in his shaking hands, because for the first time in his life, he felt like he might actually deserve it. Jade didn't recognize the man he saw in the mirror these days. The sharp suits were gone. His face was leaner, older, but the eyes were clearer, stripped of illusions. He spent his days tearing out the rot from Pinnacle Holdings, firing the silent accomplices who had smiled while a maker robbed him blind. But at night, he sat in the empty living room and felt the weight of every choice he'd made. Zara often sat nearby, folding laundry, cleaning quietly, waiting for when he was ready to speak. One evening he finally did. "Zara, why didn't you just leave when you saw how bad it was?" "Because you didn't." Jide frowned at her calm, unwavering gaze. "I didn't have a choice. This was my company, my marriage, my life. You always had a choice, you just didn't want to see it." Jide let out a heavy breath and sank deeper into the chair. "Do you think I deserved this?" "Deserve is a heavy word. Maybe you needed it." Jide blinked, stung by the honesty. Needed betrayal? Needed to be humiliated? Needed to see that building a life on loyalty doesn't mean ignoring the truth. He didn't speak for a while. He stared at the marble floors that had felt like a throne room and now felt like a prison. Zara rose slowly and placed the folded shirts on the side table. "I've seen men ruined by less, but you're not ruined, Jide. You're waking up." He swallowed hard, his voice low and ragged. "Waking up to what? To yourself." Jide's fingers curled around the armrest, knuckles white. He felt something crack open in his chest, a raw, painful thing he hadn't dared examine. He wasn't just angry at Emeka or Victoria. He was angry at himself, for believing beautiful lies, for wanting comfort more than truth, for forgetting who he'd wanted to be. And for the first time in years, he admitted that out loud to himself and to the quiet room that held no illusions anymore. The morning sun didn't feel warm so much as it felt honest. It streamed through the vast windows of Jide's living room, highlighting every speck of dust and flaw in the expensive decor. He stood in the center of it all, bare feet on the cold marble, feeling more exposed than he ever had in a boardroom. Zara entered quietly, setting a tray of tea on the side table. She didn't interrupt his thoughts, she simply waited. "I spent so many years wanting people to envy this house," he said finally, voice low. "And do they?" Jide let out a humorless laugh. "Not anymore." "Good." He turned sharply to look at her, surprised by her frankness. "Good? You think it's good I lost everything?" "You didn't lose everything, you lost what was fake, that's different." Jide stared at her for a long moment, chest heaving with something between rage and relief. He walked slowly to the couch and sat down heavily, elbows resting on his knees. "What if I don't know how to build something real? Then start with small things. Tell the truth, even when it hurts. Choose people who tell it back." He looked down at his hands, calloused from stress, not labor. "I don't even know who those people are anymore. You will, now that you're looking." Jade exhaled shakily, pressing his palms together as if in prayer. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet." "Why not?" "Because my work here is almost done." Jade's head snapped up. "What are you talking about? Where would you go?" "Where I'm needed next." He swallowed, throat tight. "Stay, help me fix this. I don't want to do it alone." "You were never really alone, Jide. You just chose people who left you that way." She stepped back, giving him space even as the words pressed against his ribs. And in that moment, he realized he was terrified not of losing her, but of what he would have to face without her guidance. The day Zara left was strangely quiet. No shouting, no tears, no last-minute confessions. She packed her small bag in the early dawn light, folding her clothes with careful, deliberate movements. Jide stood at the doorway of the guest room watching her, every word he wanted to say sticking in his throat. She turned to face him, her calm unwavering. "It's time. Don't tell me that like it's so simple. It is, for me. You think you can just walk away? After everything, I didn't come here to stay forever. I came to help you see what was killing you. And what if I'm not ready? Then you'll remember this moment, and you'll choose to be ready later." Jide felt his eyes burn. He clenched his jaw so hard it hurt. I don't want you to go. I know. He stepped closer, the distance between them suddenly feeling like a canyon. Stay anyway. You don't need me anymore. That's not true. It is. You're awake now. Jide let out a shaky breath, hands falling limp at his sides. What if I fail? Then fail honestly. That's better than living in lies. He shook his head slowly, a bitter laugh escaping. I hate you for this. No, Jide, you don't. You hate that I'm right. Silence fell between them like dust settling on old secrets. Finally, she picked up her bag and walked past him. She paused at the door, looking back once. Trust slowly, love carefully, watch everyone, even yourself. He couldn't reply. He couldn't move. He could only watch her leave. When the door clicked shut behind her, it sounded like a final sentence. Jide stood there for a long time, the empty house echoing with every word he'd never said. And then, with a deep, unsteady breath, he turned toward the living room where the morning sun was just starting to glow. Because for the first time, he was ready to face it all, alone, but finally himself. If this story moved you, please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments what would you do if the people you loved most were the ones planning your ruin. We'd love to hear your thoughts.